Open for question.
Hey, Buzz, man, it seems like nothing phases these guys. So with, I guess another quick turnaround, that doesn't even bother you anymore, does it?
No, the one thing that I would say on that, and we've tried to bring attention to it the previous time that it happened, when you make the transition in this week you play Wednesday, Saturday, next week you play Tuesday, Saturday, whenever that occurs, or if you were a Tuesday, Saturday, and the next week you're a Wednesday, Saturday, it ends up being 9 consecutive days of work. And so that's happened to us once before, and obviously we're in the midst of it for the second time. And we learned some things the first time that we've tried to utilize this time. And we've been very open with our group on what do you guys think is best? Because the pace at which you have to consume information, and then to some degree the pace at which you have to work in order to execute that information, it's a lot. And obviously they're in school and you have to do right by their bodies. So regardless of results, I think in this second 9 consecutive day work, I think we've been better than we were the first time. The first time we did it, I thought we were okay. And I think also this time, Olin, there's a little bit of mirror opponents, right? So they kind of already know a lot about Arkansas. So they're just absorbing our adjustments from game one. Same for this game. Now, what happens Sunday and Monday, obviously that'll be all new information for everybody, including me. So I don't think much phases them. And I think, as I mentioned the other night, because they're so comfortable and receptive to what we're doing, they are holding one another accountable at a level that's very admirable. When things begin to even slip just a little bit, and that's rare.
Went back and listened to you talking to radio after the game the other day, and noticed you were talking about out of bounds plays named after your kids.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that for you to have them involved, have your players get to know your kids and all that stuff?
Yeah, I did it a lot early in my career. A lot of our plays were the cities where our players were from. If it was for Travis, the play was Fort Worth or whatever. And then I've been a head coach, I guess, every year that my children have been in school. And I didn't do a really good job when they were young because as a dad, I was like, well, they're young and eventually I'll spend time with them. And then as I got older, I realized that I was giving most of my time to other people's children, which I'm not complaining about, but I didn't spend a lot of time with my children. And so the best way as they grew up for me to spend time with them is just come to work. And so it started very organically, and then it's just something that we've continued to have. Mason is obviously still in the house, so he's always very aware of his points per possession when we run Mason. And Bubba's got to where he knows what the action is for his play, even though he's not in the house anymore. And baby's kind of turning into remember the Titans daughter. She's just old enough now where she probably knows a little too much and cares a little too much. And so she didn't know that the out of bounds play that we ran with 4 in boots was her play, but she found out pretty quick after the game. So yeah, I do think that, many of the guys that we've coached over the years, Travis, they all have a unique story. Some of them may not have known their mom. Some of them may have not known their dad. And none of them have ever been married. And some of them during their career have had children. And so I hope that the example of all of our staff and their families That's a rule. You can bring your wife anytime you want. You can bring your children anytime you want to anything we do, on road trips, to practice. Not just my children, anybody's children. And I do think that it's good reps for our guys to. Corey was here this morning for shooting with Buzz. She's known Boots forever. She loves Mo, and those were the two guys that were shooting. So, yeah, I think those guys will pick up on that the older they get. I talk to Q's mom all the time. Q's mom came and visited and stayed with us, I guess, about a month ago. And Q's calling me from DC. Hey, man, why's my mom there? I'm like, because she's my friend. What do you mean? Well, I'm not there. I'm like, I'm glad I get to hang out with your mom, And so, yeah, I think that whatever that word is for family, a lot of teams say it and a lot of coaches say it, but living it's probably better than saying it.
You know which kids play has the best points per possession?
Yeah, Bubba's the best one.
Yeah.
Right now. And I told him the other day. A lot of times it's just because how teams are guarding it. I thought Sissy would end up being a little better, but Bubba is actually the counter to Sissy in real life and in our games. So I thought Sissy was our first install because she's the oldest. Bubba was our second. Bubba is the counter to Sissy. And I think because how teams are playing Sissy, Bubba's ended up being a better PPP.
Let's see, how do I want to ask this? Do you ever sense, or is there any indication that your guys now ever start thinking about, hey, now we're in a position where it may be able to accomplish some big things down the road, or do you still got a good feeling that there's...
No, I think after, not all of them. Jew doesn't know. Dexter wasn't here. Solo was in high school. EP was in JUCO. Andy wasn't here. Those guys are scarred from what happened last year. And just to be very transparent, the adults are just as scarred. And so all of the memes and the GIFs and all of those words, that from my diatribe, that Tuesday after Selection Sunday, I was very aware, Olin, of what that meant relative to the perception of my career, all of those things. And I said it because I believed it. I didn't say it because of any other reason. I understand it's not the politically correct thing to do. I know it gives the media more ammunition to be negative towards me or towards our program. But what transpired, it happened in real life. And so, yeah, I think we've been very mature and also very, I've tried to be, as you guys have probably picked up on, I've tried to be really tight in what I say publicly about anything that's the opinion of someone else. And I think that our program, whether they were here or not, very much understands the value of today and the work required. And I think they also understand the value of an opportunity for a quad one road win. We've had some, and we understand that there's value to that. And even not just about last year, they understand that a few of our losses were not the best thing, right? And so, yeah, I don't think that we're thinking about the future at all. And I don't say that as the say the right thing coach response. I believe that.
Hey, Coach. So, as far as the Missouri game, they're pretty dominant at home. I think they're 6-1 for conference.
14-2. They lost to Alabama, and they lost to Kansas. I think only 7 times, maybe 8 times. I think 8 times they haven't scored over 70 points, home or on the road. They had a buzzer shot at Central Florida for the 1 win. They're a top 10 offense nearly in every single category. lowest turnover rate, top 10, pace of possession, top 10, threes attempted, threes made. They are a really, 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 really good offensive team in every category. And they have really good players, and their style of play is unique for sure to anybody in the SEC. I think Coach has been tremendous in putting together a team in year number one to play to their strengths. And you can tell, we played them in game 3. This is game 14. Like they're way better than they were that first week of January when we played them. And you can tell they're doing a lot of the same things, but much more fluid, much more efficient, much faster, more effective. I mean, at home, their last 3 games, I think they've made 12, 13, and 14 threes in each of those 3 games. And they play at such a fast pace. I think in SEC play, 44% of their shots have been from 3, and 48% of their possessions are in transition. So, and the crowd has completely changed in their arena in this season, similar to how the crowd and the environment has changed here in the last month. It's electric.
Kind of going off of that, how compared to the other mirror opponents, how much does your preparation kind of shift for this game, given that, as you mentioned, it seems like much longer of a gap between?
Yeah, the way we started it was just, hey, tell me what you remember, right? Because I think so this will be game 10 in the mirror season. So I think if you look at the other 8 games, they were all within 21 days of one another. The longest period was 21 days. This one is obviously, I had to go back through all of my stuff initially just to kind of recalibrate my brain on some of the things that we were talking about, some of the things that we prepared for. And so we started 2-day yesterday, and that's how I opened it up. Hey guys, what do you remember? And it's just random stuff. Right. And the guys that are into ball and this is all they do, they're keeping up with them, not just when we play them. And so I think that helps. But similar to, I think it was Georgia last year, that was the longest period of time in between mirror opponents. It is a little different vibe because when it's Florida, I think we played 14 days apart. Hey, guys, you remember Florida? Boom, 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 boom. This is for sure not that. And then they're so unique in how they play, you kind of have to alter how you practice because you're trying to imitate to some degree as best you can what they do. And they similar to what Olin asked me, and I think he asked me a couple of weeks ago, they played on Tuesday, right? And so they've had another day to prepare. We played on Wednesday. And now we're traveling to their place. And so, that prep time, you have to kind of figure out how to distill it down to, we only need to tell them this time because we don't have as much prep time as we did the first time.
And what do you have any update on Manny Obaski? Looked like
he's been released. He's able to do some skill work now. He's doing like maybe the first, whatever you would say, 10 to 15% of practice. It's just kind of a stair step relative to the medical protocol. But in what he's done, I mean, today was his first day doing shooting with Buzz. He missed it last week. He had another hand appointment. So we'll see how it all plays out over the next couple of weeks.
From the coach's perspective, how good have y'all been over the last 4 games?
We've done a lot of good things. When we can make a bunch of free throws and when we can be in a position to do our job on the glass, I think that gives us a chance. I think we've tried to continue to find ways, Olin, where relative to what we want to do and how we want to do it, how we can fine tune it, and how we can continue a trajectory where we continue to improve. If you look at the last 6 teams that were going to play, if we didn't improve, we wouldn't have a chance to win those games. And so our staff has been great in finding a way not to be content on here's another way to emphasize this, here's something else to show. Our staff's kind of split up like a football staff in regards to responsibilities, and those offensive guys have meetings, the defensive guys have meetings. I sit in on each of those, and then we have a full staff meeting. So I think it's kept our guys with an insatiable desire to continue to find ways to improve. And I think that's, as we close out, anytime you get past Valentine's Day, that's what you're looking for, is can we continue to find ways to get better?
You've talked about kind of approaching every game like it's an NCAA tournament game in the SEC. I'm wondering if there's a way you guys can do that without exhausting yourself mentally and emotionally, if there's an on and off switch you can flip before and after each game, and how you kind of go about that without being too draining.
Well, in my opinion, we have played 13 NCAA tournament games over the last 6.5 weeks. Maybe I shouldn't say that. That may be a little bit too politically charged, but mathematically, I would say that statement is accurate. And in truth, I think that we have 5 more. I think your question is spot on. And I've tried to pray about and think about. I spend a lot of time with our guys individually, trying to make sure that I discern when it's right to be on emotionally from me. Sometimes I let things go on purpose. I think all of us, whether we play sports or not, we all have gas tanks, and they're all figurative. And I think one of the gas tanks you have as a leader is you have an emotional gas tank, but you also have to know that those you're leading have that same gas tank. And you have to have a very delicate feel for when to use yours. And when you use yours, it needs to be to help those you lead feel theirs. And I think sometimes the anxiousness, the stress, as you mentioned, the exhaustion, as you mentioned, what do they say when you get tired? You want to eat. When you get tired is when you're angry, when you get, so don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry, all of those things. So when I feel that internally, I'm super cautious to make sure that if I'm going to use some of my emotional gas tank, I use it to help someone, not to drain theirs and drain mine at the same time. I think that the currency that's required in those relationships to know how to do that is critical. When you have December the 20th, we're 6-5, and we could have really quickly, easily lost the game against Northwestern State, whatever that would have been 8 days later. So I used a lot of my gas tanks in Myrtle Beach. I used a lot of them during the Christmas holidays. And so I think it's a fine line, and I don't think that there's always a distinct answer. And I don't ever like saying it because I like evidence before I use opinion. I think some of it just has to be your instinct on what you think is right for the program, and that's always 1A. But 1B is what's right for the individual. And I think the only way to know what's right for the individual is to have a real relationship with them.
All right, I think that's a wrap.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.